Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest is Lauren Edsley. She is a broker advisor with Premier Sotheby's International Realty in Orlando, Florida. Her work explores housing trends, innovation, and the evolving dynamics of the high-end market. Drawing from a background in marketing and sales, she brings a modern perspective on how cultural forces and market movements are shaping the future of luxury housing. Lauren, welcome onto the show. We're so happy to have you.
Hi, Allison. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we are talking today about the rise of the single woman homeowner and what that looks like, what that means, how as realtors we can take advantage of that and be prepared to work with this growing demographic. So it's going to be awesome. Lauren is here to kind of share more from her experience in working with this demographic, what they're looking for, and what we need to know as they really are entering this market and in the future market, with a ton of purchasing power. So we're going to dive all into that. But before we do so, Lauren, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you. Could you share with us how you got started in this industry, what's led you to where you are today, and what you do right now?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Thanks again for having me. So I have been on the selling portion as an agent for going on 9, almost 10 years now. I have been involved in various aspects of the industry. Before that, I'm originally from Atlanta, moved around a little bit, and then landed here in Florida. And there's a large developer here that owns residential real estate, commercial real estate, sells, buys. And so I was working for them for quite some time before I made the transition over into selling. So I have a good amount of experience from that end of things. They were doing luxury homes, luxury residential communities. So learned a lot from that standpoint, really got to understand how the marketing works and how that client experience part of that works. And so I've just joined Sotheby's in the past year, and it's been really exciting because I think everybody in the industry knows that they're well known for a high-end product, not just in the houses that you're selling, but for the experience that you're giving. And it's been a really great learning experience with them, the way that they do their branding, the way that they do their marketing. And thankfully, they have a really great public relations and marketing arm that we as agents can take advantage of. And so that allowed me to put out some articles, write, and explore some topics that I was interested in. And that's ultimately how we came to be here today. So it's been exciting.
I love that. Yeah, because your background's in marketing too, right? So that kind of is a good natural fit.
Yeah, it works out really well because like everybody knows, you're not only marketing yourself as a real estate agent, but also every single house is its own little mini marketing campaign.
Yep, so true. I always appreciate people who come on with marketing backgrounds because that's what my area of expertise is into. So, we get each other. We're on the same wavelength with that. We know that marketing world very well.
Yes, it's a lot of fun, and it's like you have your own control over doing it when you're in business for yourself. That's exciting in a different way.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thanks so much for sharing a little bit about you and what you're doing now. Let's get into today's talk, the rise of single women in real estate. So you wrote an article about this, shared to Inman, and it talked a lot about, this new trend that we're seeing. And it's really, taking over quite a bit of today's market. Could you share with us just a little bit about what's this trend we're seeing here with single women? How are they coming into this market? Share with us a little bit about what we've seen from this demographic so far.
Sure. So the reason I really wrote this article was because I started to see more news about it more last year, I would say. You started seeing articles about how women, for the first time in the 1970s, it was 1974, that they could actually obtain a mortgage by themselves. And then how that's kind of taken off with the amount of, in particular, single female home buyers. Because I think that a lot of times, whether it's in a couple or by themselves, a lot of women are driving those decisions anyways. So to see the number of first-time single female home buyers, or just generally single female home buyers, going from such extreme numbers from jumping from like 11% to 24% and then just keep going. It was more of a exciting, like, hey, go ladies, like this is a great thing for you. Let's keep doing it. Let's be encouraging.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, any, like you said, anytime we see that jump from 11% up to 24% now, I mean, that's like almost a quarter of the market now. We're seeing these, single women, without families, taking advantage into this market. And it's a really cool thing to see. And like you said, this is not that old of a trend, right? I mean,
Right.
women were just able to get mortgages in, would you say, 1974?
Yes, they couldn't do it without a cosigner.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
quite a dramatic shift that's happened in a pretty short amount of time, when we're really thinking about it. Do you have any like hunches? I don't know if there's any research that has been done about this on why that's the case, why women are choosing to invest in real estate and making these homeownership purchases. Any hunches or research that you've kind of found? I don't know that I've seen anything specifically on why they're choosing this, but I'm just kind of curious what your hunch is as someone, experienced in this.
Sure. In doing some of this research, the National Association of Realtors has a lot of data about what they're buying, what their attitudes are for buying, that sort of thing. It was interesting because they were the second to married couples. So it's married couples, single women, and then like the rest of the stats. So I think a lot of them are buying for security in a variety of ways, whether that's financial security and stability. Oftentimes, they're more likely to have other family members living with them. So whether that's children, adult, older parents, both at the same time. I think it's both for them to ensure that they have a stable place, a safe place to live, raise their children, ensure children are going, to the schools that they want them to go to. And I just think having that sense of home can be important to them.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's great news for us realtors, right? They
Absolutely.
seem to be, interested in real estate. They're seeing it, as a good investment opportunity. And you mentioned too that they're not only buying homes to live in, but they're investing too, right? Like they are,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're using this as, not just buying homes to live in, but also, investment opportunities and you really using it as a strategy on what to do with their wealth that they're gaining, which I think is really awesome.
It is because it is a large part of most individuals' wealth, whether it's as everyone said, it's one of the largest, if not the largest purchase that you're going to make. Ideally, you're making it in a way that is comfortable for you financially. So not stretching too far, but doing something you're comfortable with that either down the road, you're selling it at a premium. So you can take some of that money and buy something at a lower price point later on, or you've gotten to that point where you've paid off that 30-year mortgage and now you own something free and clear. And I think that's really valuable for women to have that because oftentimes they're not making as much as their male peers, so they have a little bit of more advantage if they have like an investment like this. So I think that it's been a great something. I've been excited to see that they're feeling confident and comfortable doing this. They're taking these steps and finding out what is going to work for me, whatever it is, whether it's a condo, a townhome, single family home, vacation residence, whatever it is. But they're making those moves and being really confident with it.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great, and I know anyone who's listening to this should be excited about it too. It says that women are projected to control 34 trillion in investable assets by 2030. 2030 is now only 4 years away, and that's a lot of money.
I know that it's nice to have some of that trickle down. And so Sotheby's International Realty puts out a luxury outlook every single year. So this was in their data from the 2025 outlook that talks a lot about how all this inherited wealth is supposed to trickle down to our generation and a little bit younger than us to really come full force into the market. And I think that people are seeing whether it's just in the social lexicon now that you have all these like real estate TV shows and people are really interested in renovating their homes and all the things that they can do with that people are really looking to that as something to enjoy, invest in, live in, and really have to be like a big part of your lifestyle.
Yeah, I love it. That's so exciting and something we should all feel really good about. And they're already doing it. And you mentioned it's particularly millennial women, right, that are entering and doing these kind of purchases right now. Is that kind of the generation you're seeing that we should be focusing on? I think that's the right generation, right?
Yes, I think you're right. Yes, absolutely. I think it's kind of a little bit of that, like on the cusp of maybe that Gen X millennial. They're the ones that are like, they're of the age where they're, getting married, having children, having families, maybe they have some adult parents that have either, left them funds or are helping them with that, and, trickling down for some of that investing. So I think that will probably be like one of the main focus areas. I think they're one of the largest home buying groups right now.
Yeah, and I think they're one of the largest ones that are in the workplace right now too. So are
Hmm.
actively working, making money, and are having that steady income coming in to be able to afford home ownership, which is great. So you work with a lot of these clients in your work in Florida. Tell us a little bit about your experience with them firsthand. Maybe share some examples of what you've helped your clients do. If you've worked with any of these single women clients that we're talking about, what are they wanting? What's your experience been like working with them? Share with us a little bit about, what you've learned and how you've been able to help some of your clients.
Sure. We were, talking a little earlier about what a great time it is to move to Florida for a variety of reasons, not just the weather that you're experiencing, which I'm so sorry about, but Central Florida especially. So I'm in Orlando, so we've got Central Florida, you've got Orlando, some a little bit over to Tampa, and some a little bit over to the East Coast. It's been a really prime area for people moving here for all sorts of reasons. You've got your traditional tax benefits that people have always moved here for. Now you've got people coming down for better weather, better housing prices. You can get something larger and newer than you can in a lot of other places. And at the time that I wrote this, I realized I had three separate female clients, all different situations. I had one woman that was a little bit older than me who had been widowed. She lived in a different part of Florida. She was moving here to Orlando because her best childhood friend lived here. So I saw that relationship really drew her to the area. She was very much involved. So it was really like I was working with the two of them. They were, making decisions together, which was really neat and really fun to see, and very helpful, because it's kind of intimidating to do that on your own in a new place. It's nice to have a friendly face and somebody that knows you and can give you really good advice. And then as we were going through, she purchased a home here. At some point, she decided she wanted to move closer to be back to her family out of state. So we ended up selling her home here and she bought somewhere else. And as we were sitting in that closing, she said, I've never done this before by myself. Her husband had always taken care of that or just had her do that, for her. And I said, well, you've just done three and now you're going on your fourth real estate transaction all by yourself. It's kind of an amazing thing. Like, you should be really proud of that because you've handled them all beautifully. You've made money on all of them. So you're making good choices. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I had worked with a family where I had worked with one of the daughters, and they happened to have the parents happened to help them with their home purchases, which is always a great advantage to have. And situations in life change. Kids get older, they move out of the house. Maybe spouses are getting separated, and I'd helped the sister purchase a home in a gated, very safe, very community oriented neighborhood here. And then the sister, once her kids went off to school, she wanted to come from out of state and wanted to live right by her sister. So we're doing, FaceTime, showing her the houses together. I'm working with her mom and her dad to help with some of those like inspections and those details and things. And it's a very fun community experience, I notice, whether it's sisters, parents, sons, best friends. You're working with a whole group of people to really support them. And oftentimes they're looking for safety and security. A lot of them have purchased in gated communities. They're looking for areas that are going to support their children, whether it's that they have children still at home and they want to make sure they're in a good school district, or, we happen to have a lot of higher education here. So some of the people, even though their children were graduated, they were going to like a graduate program here in the area. So they were still going to be living at home or coming home. And we happen to have a lot of great amenities here. So a lot of our neighborhoods have like really great pools, really great community activities, basketball courts, tennis courts, that sort of thing. So that was also important to people, just depending on the age, what they were looking for.
I love that. So a couple things like really stood out to me. I love those relationships. It sounds
Mhm.
like, these buyers and, women entering this housing market are really putting that at the forefront of their decisions. And that's driving a lot of what they're doing. And you mentioned, in a couple examples just then, that these relationships are so important. And I think NAR did a study on this too, that was one of the main reasons why people were moving to be closer to family members, to be closer to friends, to be closer to, these people that are very important in your life. So I love that, these women are kind of using that as a big motivating factor when they're making these decisions. And that's great to note too, if you're working with any of these clients, to know, that they have a big support system that they're working with and thinking about and talking to, and you said, it was really great to have that person, to work with kind of both of them, and the woman who was moving to be closer with her friend, knowing that as an agent, I think going into that system that, these people entering the market are going to have a strong support system behind them, and being prepared to work for that, I think is what I heard you say. And it's really important to kind of make note of and know that they have this strong support system behind them.
Yes, that's a really good thing to point out, because oftentimes I feel that it makes my job easier, because a lot of times you're meeting these people, you don't know them, you don't have any background or context for them. Maybe it's a referral from an agent, they can tell you a little bit about it, but it's helpful to have that best friend there or that mom there that's like, oh, I had trouble with this on my house. Let's make sure we check, the air conditioning really well, or I don't know how I feel about that roof, those sorts of things, to where they really know how they live. They know the things that are important to them and the things that they might have a little bit of trouble with. So they could direct them like, hey, maybe we need to go to a neighborhood where your lawn maintenance is taken care of. So that's just one thing that's off your plate that you don't have to think about, do, or arrange for. And so I find that it's a really nice feeling. It makes it a much better experience.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great point. And they're kind of looking for different things that maybe they wouldn't if they were with a partner, or, had the kids, or looking at school districts, or looking at safe spaces to raise their kids. What else are they looking for in homes? I know you mentioned that lifestyle. They're looking for that low maintenance, amenity rich, kind of you mentioned some of that, but really catering to women's specific needs. Is there any other, specific amenities that they're looking for in these homes, or what should we be thinking about when we're working with these clients?
I think that security is often an important one, whether it's in a gated community, so you have some sense of security. They're going to be looking at who's coming and going, whether it's, I have a pet and I want to make sure that there's a safe area in the evening when I'm taking when I'm taking my dog for a walk, or early in the morning, that's convenient. And then if they do have elderly parents or children, that it's safe for them to, walk around, to go to the pool, to go to the community center, or just have that comfort in the area and the neighborhood, knowing that they can be out and about and everybody feels really comfortable. And I think too, from a space perspective, they can be a little open about what they're looking for. So maybe it'll be a townhome if that fits, if that's in a better area, if that's in a better school district. It doesn't have to be a massive house. It can just be what's going to work best for me, my budget, and the people that I'm caring for right now.
Yep, absolutely. And the people that you're caring for, are you seeing a lot of those multifamily? I mean, you mentioned before that you can see parents moving in with the woman, or having other family members involved. Is that something you're seeing too? That need for that multi-generational housing lifestyle?
I am. And we do have some builders out here that will build an actual multi-gen home. I haven't seen that explode in popularity the way that we maybe thought that it would. But there's definitely been quite a few that I worked with that they need to have just some kind of private space for, like, a mom coming to visit for like a long period of time. Or like, when you have children at home and in school, everybody's kind of mixed in together, but maybe there's an adult child that it'd be great to have a completely separate upstairs suite for them, or maybe even a garage apartment. We have some ADUs here. It doesn't tend to be super popular in this area, but there are definitely some options for garage apartments, separate upstairs, loft, bedroom, bathroom, that they can take advantage of.
Absolutely. That's going to be interesting to watch too. I'm thinking as millennials get older, as their parents are going to start getting older, I think, if that's going to be interesting to see in maybe the next 10 to 20 years, as the parents really are getting into that elderly stage and maybe be needing more help, might be moving back, with the child for that. That's going to be interesting to watch, especially when we think about millennials and the life, transitions that they'll be experiencing here in the next couple of years. So good to know and good to be thinking about too. That's going to be fun to watch. And you mentioned too that they're not only doing one transaction. I mean, in the example you gave, there are multiple transactions that can happen with these clients, which I think is really great too. Is that kind of something you're seeing too? Is that, hey, they're not just one and doneing, like this can be a multiple transaction situation?
Absolutely. And especially if there is family involvement, then maybe it's the daughter moving and the parents are going to get involved because at some point, maybe they're going to sell their house and want to move closer or downsize. And then I've also had where, a child moves from out of state to Florida and they have grandkids. And then, all of a sudden the grandparents want to be close to the grandkids. So now they're going to come here as well. So I think we're always looking for those opportunities to, do you have friends and family? Do you know anybody else that might be looking, to buy or move? And these give some great opportunities because you never know what's going to come out of it. And so much the better if they have a good experience with you, you're helping them along the process. Some things maybe they'll think about, some things maybe they haven't thought about before. And I think if parents see that you're taking good care of their child, that it naturally makes them want to refer you or use you in the future.
Yeah, it's just huge opportunity all the way around when you think about it. There's so many benefits of working with this demographic. How do we tap into this? You've done such a great job of finding these clients. What's your advice to other agents if they're looking to tap into this market? How should we be presenting ourselves? You have that marketing background similar to me. How should we be presenting ourselves? What should our marketing look like? How can we really attract these types of clients? Because it sounds like this should be a great business strategy as we think about this.
That's a really good question. I would imagine that being a female, probably there's some natural comfort level with working with another female. I personally am a female that like owns my own home. And I've talked about that a little bit because I think sometimes that process can seem intimidating. And I think demystifying that and making people feel comfortable that this is just one of the normal things that people do. I know that like when I purchased a home by myself for the first time after getting divorced, people were the sales agent or the title agent's like, is it just you? Are you just here? Like, is there anybody else coming? And I'm like, nope, it's just me. And so I think making them feel comfortable and talking about those situations and letting people know that whatever your situation is, it's totally fine with me. We'll work with you. And probably speaking to some of those areas of like where it feels safe and secure, where there are good schools, where you can walk your dog and have that outdoor lifestyle, which we thankfully can have a lot of here, that, makes them feel like, oh, this could feel like a homey, nice community. Maybe there's a lot of things around here that I can take care of so I don't have to go out to do whatever those like errands and amenities that you're looking for, all that kinds of things.
Yeah, that's great advice. Familiarizing yourself. You just gave, a ton of different examples on what this demographic is looking for. And if you are thinking about this client or have this client in mind, and you're thinking about that from this lens and saying, hey, this neighborhood's really great for what they're looking for, or, this location, has that lifestyle that, this demographic wants. I think thinking from that lens is a really great way to attract those kind of clients. What, from your experience too, what have you found that these single women clients want from their realtor? Is there a specific service, or a way that you are working with them differently than maybe families or beyond just what they're looking for in a home? I'm thinking how you're communicating with them, the advice you're giving, the support, is that different at all from when you're working with clients that have, families or a married couple? Have you kind of had to tailor any of that any differently for these clients?
Maybe in the sense that in talking about my own experience and things that I've gone through or had to think about, that can make a little bit of more comfort level there. But I think with any client that you're working with, really trying to grasp and understand what motivates them, what makes them feel comfortable. I think most people at some point during the process have a moment where they're stressed about something, they're worried about something, and really trying to identify that and speak to that for them, regardless of what kind of buyer or seller they are, can really help alleviate any of those issues. I'm not sure that I do any additional service or sort of thinking ahead for them that I wouldn't do for anybody else.
Yeah.
But certainly, like, there's a little part of me, I think, that would be like, oh, let me just make sure that, like, do you have everything you need? Do you know how to, do you know what the fence company is because you want to fence in your yard for your dog? Let's think about when you're moving out of state, do we have everything settled for you to get that move going? Do you feel comfortable with how that process is going and where you're going? Does that feel worked out? But I think that you're probably trying to do that for most of your clients initially anyways.
Yep, absolutely. I think that makes sense. Not necessarily treating them any different than any other client, but just knowing that their needs, may be a little bit different and what they're looking for may be a little bit different too. So always good stuff to keep in mind. Any last bits of advice or anything you want to share about your experience working, the power, like what we should be excited about? I know we talked about a ton, so everyone should feel really good. What's lying ahead? What's next for this group? I think, the future, the sky's the limit, I think. How can we best be prepared? Your best bits of advice. What do you want to leave us off with today?
I think just to be really excited and thrilled that ladies are feeling comfortable entering the market on their own. It is going to open up a whole new world for us. The houses are probably going to be amazing, decorated very well, which I think is always a bonus no matter who's looking. And I think just knowing that they are going to be taking care, taking consideration, and it's going to be like a really fun time working with them.
Yeah, I think so too. Tons to be excited about. You're right. It's going to be really exciting to watch this all unfold because we're really just at the beginning of this too. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is really a trend that's kicked off in the recent few years, but I think where it could go, I can't wait to look back on this and see that number. It already moved from 11 to 24%. Jump in the NAR. 1 in 5 home buyers now is this demographic. I'm really looking forward to seeing that number grow, to see where we're at, as women are entering more of the workforce. They are, making money, being able to afford these types of investments. So I'm excited to see where that's going to be in the future. Do you think this trend is going to grow and stick around? What's your gut say on that?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with what we talked about with the inheritances that are coming. I think absolutely that women are going to be feeling more and more comfortable making these decisions, whatever the product is, that it'll make it easier for them. And I think as professionals, as long as we handle them and whatever concerns they have or whatever needs they have with care and respect, that it'll make it a better experience for them and will lead them to do it more often. Tell people about it, tell people how easy the process was, how they were taken care of through the process. And I think that will just enable more and more of those transactions to happen.
Yep, absolutely. Lots to look forward to. We love a little girl power. I love when we can talk, about the rise of women and female empowerment and all good stuff. It's going to be exciting to watch. And yeah, as realtors, we got to be ready. And I know we will be, and lots to be excited about and take advantage of. So Lauren, I want to thank you again so much for joining me today. This was amazing. As a fellow woman and woman in business, we love it. We love to spotlight the great work that other women are doing. So thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for all you do to help not only our female clients, but all the clients you help along their journey in Florida. So thanks so much for joining me today and for sharing all this stuff with us.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate the opportunity.
And to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you next week. Talk to you then.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.